funny you brought up expectations. That's another thing I wanted to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have high expectations for this team, RJ. And like you said, like Devin Booker, you don't want to get your hopes up. I'm at the point with the Pistons where I'm tired of getting my hopes up, RJ. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've been a fan since 2014 and it's just been nothing but one winning season and 2 playoff appearances where they got swept. But I'm not buying like, and I understand the Lions hype, right? Because they showed you something last year where it's like, okay, I can buy into this now because they
Right.
finished the season so strong. With the Pistons, it's like they were the worst team in the NBA last year
Yeah.
by a decent margin. And like, I understand they got Cade back, but it's like, my expectations are pretty low this season, honestly. I'm not one of those people that are like the Pistons are going to be a play-in team or none of that, because it's like for that to happen, realistically, they need to make a 20 to 25 win improvement from last year to be a play-in team. So in terms of like expectations, I mean, we're only 2 weeks away from the season, which is crazy. I don't know, RJ. My expectations are pretty low. I'm tired of getting my hopes up for this team and then just being constantly let down. So I don't know. I can't have high expectations for this team right now.
I mean, we on the same page, my man. You already know how I feel about it. Like last year, I had season tickets, so it was my first time getting season tickets, and this is probably gonna be my last time for a while because it was just so many losses, man. Like it got depressing. Like I was going to games, and I was the type I would never leave a game early. It didn't matter how bad the blowout was. Last year, man, I left so many games early. It was so many games I was half paying attention to. Like I would just go walk the concourse area. Like last year was bad, man. And like you said, I know we got K back, and that was a big part of why we were so bad last year. You lost your star player, whatnot, and if you have him, a lot of those close losses might turn into some wins. But yeah, just after last year, my expectations are not high. I mean, I keep telling people we got to at least start off with winning 20 games because you didn't even do that last year. You didn't even win 20 games last year. So you got to at least win me 20 games this year. So that's not asking for much. I feel
That's 20 games is probably the worst team in the NBA, man. Like
exactly.
that's the
So
bar. The bar is to be the worst team in the NBA. Like
no, like I'm telling you, it was so bad last year. I'm not expecting much. I know we got a SAR now. We got K back, and then if you look at things, we really didn't change our roster. We really didn't. I mean, you pretty much are relying on a healthy Kate Cunningham to return and keep growing his game, and the rest of our young guys to keep developing. You're really relying on the young players to have great developments between last season and this year. So that's really all we hoping on. I'm like, with that being said, if we finish 12th place, I guess that's a success because I'm not expecting much more higher than that at this point.
realistically, we should expect them to make the play-in. If we're being like, you look at a team like the Indiana Pacers, right? Look at their rebuild. Like their rebuild was what, a year and a half. They won like 35 games last year. Like this Pistons rebuild is now in year 4. And the fact that we're
Mm-hmm.
sitting here talking about 20, 25 wins, I think it just says a lot of the state about this franchise right now. And like that should not be the expectation. I mean, we're in year 4 of Troy Weaver. The expectation should be the play-in, but it's just not. And I think that just says a lot about how bad this team has really been, honestly.
It's bad. I mean, when we got Cade, had you said we were still in this boat going into the 2023-24 season, a lot of folks would have looked at you crazy, but that's honestly where we're at right now. So it's just I don't want to blame Troy altogether. He had a rough roster to take in, and it's not easy. You know that what they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So I'm trying to look at it from that standpoint because I get it. Like the roster was bad and it's still bad. So I'm not expecting much, but at some point things got to start coming together. You've had a fair share of draft picks now. Some have hit, some have missed. Sadiq's already out of town. Who knows how long Killian and Stu are going to be here. So Livers is another draft pick that I think this might be his last year. So I don't know, man. Something's got to give at some point.
It's just it gets to the point where I think there's two types of people. It's like the Cade injury. That's their reasoning for why the Pistons are, and that's their way of defending this team is Cade was injured. And then
Mhm.
there's the other people that are like, yes, but they also won 17 games, which goes to talk about the roster around him. So it's really like I agree with you. They didn't do much this offseason. Like this offseason, we were talking about guys like Kyle Kuzma and Jeremy Grant, and we got Joe Harris, and I mean I can't even think Monty Morris. Like
Mhm.
they didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
So it's really gonna be. I'm not saying it's all about Cade Cunningham, but that is what their bank like. That is the reason they won. They were supposed to win 35 games last year, and they won 17. So
Mhm.
like they have to win. I mean, I just feel like it's gonna be so dependent on Cade Cunningham because that's the only excuse Troy Weaver and the Pistons have. It's Cade wasn't healthy. That's all they have. Because
Yeah.
other than that, he put the worst, basketball team in the NBA on the court last year. So I feel like the excuse of not having Cade Cunningham is gone.
It
So
is.
now we're gonna see what they really are. And I think it's very fascinating. But like I don't know. I tend to be an optimist. I tend to be positive and get my hopes up, but I just can't right now for this team. And
I
that's not to say
understand that.
that's not to say they don't have young talent that
Mhm.
I'm excited about, and I think that could be really good. But I don't know. And it comes to the point where it's like if Cade Cunningham isn't an All NBA MVP level player, like we saw this roster without him, how bad it is. And I'm not like Jaden Ivey's obviously going to get better. Jalen Duren's going to get better, but it's like Cade Cunningham has to be him, or else I don't know how far this team realistically can even go.